Hello, I'm Katherine O'Fallon, the Executive Director of the Marine Research Hub, leading efforts to advance ocean solutions and innovation in Florida and beyond. By 2030, the global ocean economy is projected to reach $3 trillion and 40 million jobs. And Florida, surrounded by water, is uniquely positioned to lead the way with marine solutions with a global impact. At the Marine Research Hub, we connect stakeholders, elevate oceanographic research, and commercialize marketable solutions that drive investment opportunities, create sustainable jobs, and ultimately protect our marine and coastal environments. Founded in 2017, the Marine Research Hub bridges the gap between scientific discovery and real-world application. Through collaboration between researchers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and industry leaders, we accelerate commercialization, investment, and ecosystem building, creating lasting impact for our oceans and coastal communities. We are just beginning to make waves, and the potential is limitless. Join us as we fuel the blue economy through innovation, sustainability, and strategic investment from Florida to the entire world. Let's not do good afternoon. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Blue Economy Podcast. I'm Katherine O'Fallon, the Executive Director of the Marine Research Hub and host of the Blue Economy Podcast. And with me today is my new friend. We just met each other pretty much, 7 or 8 days ago, maybe not even. 7, yeah. And I'd love to introduce you to Sharon Gray, who's with the Rising Seas Institute. But before we get started, we are sitting in a very unique place and the fog is rolling in. So I'd love for you to tell everybody where we're at today.
So we're in Ilulissat, Greenland, and this is the ice fjord. Normally, you can see better. There's icebergs behind us.
There's icebergs, guys. Yeah. There's icebergs. You can't see them because the fog is coming in and we are just running out of time.
Yeah.
So really happy to have you here. Like I said, we just literally met when I got off the plane in Iceland. Mm-hmm. So I'd love, let's talk about why we're here in Iceland and tell, but maybe before we get to why we're here in Iceland, actually not in Iceland, right now we're in Greenland. We flew to Iceland, spent a couple of days in Iceland, then came here to Greenland. This is our last day. But before we get to why we're here, I want you to introduce yourself and tell me, what are you doing with the Rising Seas Institute? What is the Rising Seas Institute?
Okay. So I am the senior content developer and program manager of the Rising Seas Institute, which basically means I make all the educational content and kind of make sure everything runs smoothly on day-to-day and sometimes big picture stuff. The Rising Seas Institute started as a nonprofit in, I want to say 2017 is when we started. And the goal was kind of to raise awareness about aspects of climate change that were sort of being missed in the public and scientific sphere. And now in the last year, we've become a program of Nova Southeastern University. So we're excited about the new opportunity and that. Oh, sorry, there's a bug right by my ear.
If you see us swatting at bugs, it's normal. So actually let's talk about that a little bit because that kind of leads into why we're here, right. Is the partnership with Nova Southeastern University. So Rising Seas Institute has been around for a while, but now it is affiliated and housed and a partner with NSU, Nova Southeastern. Can you tell us a little bit about how that happened, maybe?
Sure. Yeah. So I believe it was 3 years ago. So we lead trips to Greenland where we try and teach, kind of show firsthand the melting of the ice sheet and glaciers and really kind of show people the scale of what's happening here and hear from some of the locals firsthand of what they've experienced, the changes they've seen. And we often we kind of initially had tried to target sort of high-level people, decision makers and business people that can hopefully go back home and take what they've learned here and put some of that into action, making a difference. So one of the people on our trip a couple of years ago was Steve Halmos, who's a board member of Nova Southeastern University. And after experiencing what he experienced here, he thought, that the school really needed to be involved with what we do and kind of helped usher that in, helped bring us to be a part of the university.
Excellent. Yeah. And Steve Helmos is actually a board member for the Marine Research Hub.
Right.
So it's a great overlap of initiatives that are going on. So the Rising Seas Institute, now part of NSU. But let's go back a little bit and talk about how you got involved with the Rising Seas Institute and John Englander, who is the co-founder of the Institute. So can you just tell us a little bit about that, how that started, and a little background on the Rising Seas Institute?
Sure. So how I got involved, I started my career as a marine scientist. I was doing research on primarily on sharks and marine mammals and doing kind of the fun work, the fun field work. And when I had my son, it became harder to go out in the field. So I was kind of looking for, a bit of a change, something I could do more remotely. And came across an ad in Craigslist looking for an assistant, not knowing who it was or what the job was about. And it turned out to be John Englander. And when we met, we realized that there was a lot of synergy but with our backgrounds and what we were both hoping to do. And 13 years later, still working with them. So initially it was just sort of working, he and I together. And then the Rising Seas Institute was co-founded with Bob Carell, who's a giant in the field of climate science. And the idea was to sort of have a more of a centralized place to more of an organized way of trying to get this information out and trying to be kind of a hub of really good information on sea level rise.
Yeah, the data, the knowledge, all that. So I just realized, like literally, less than 10, 15 minutes ago, that the Rising Seas Institute was not established until after you actually came on board. So how long has it been around?
I believe it's been around since 2017. Okay. That's the number I'm remembering. So.
That's the
dates mix together sometimes.
It all kind of goes in blends together after a little while.
Yep.
So the Rising Seas Institute, collects all this data, is really, putting out the information because this is about educating people about sea level rise. And part of that is this trip and where we're at today in Greenland. So Steve Helmos went on this trip a couple years ago, and now we are here. And I had the fortunate opportunity to join the Nova Southeastern University team to come up here on this expedition. And so tell us a little bit about why it's important to have these expeditions to Greenland.
Yeah, actually, so Bob Carell started doing these expeditions back in the early 90s. I want to say he was asked by actually John McCain and started doing these congressional delegations to show, again, those important, policymakers and decision makers, what's going on here. And I think the reason it's important to actually come and see it is because it is nearly impossible to understand the scale unless you see it. You can take pictures, you can describe it, but it's just a completely different thing to experience it yourself. And I've even seen this with people who've researched this subject that, trying to come up with certain solutions for sea level rise, they don't get the scale unless they've actually been here. So that's, it sort of tends to impact people in a way that really changes them.
Yeah,
for sure. And then they go and share the story and on it goes is sort of the goal.
Well, we're going to come back to a little bit of scale and solutions in a little bit, but sure. I want to, because this was my first trip here, and I know what I've been having a very hard time coming to, have the right words and description. I want to think back to your first trip here. What do you remember what it was like being here for the first time and being on, the Greenland Glacier and going out and seeing calving happening? And calving, for those of our audience, you're going to have to explain what that is. Okay. But yeah, tell me, kind of remember what it was like. I mean, is it every time you feel the same way? Is it different every time?
I like to compare it to like seeing a dolphin. It just sort of never gets old. It's it's amazing being here every time, and it is completely different every time. So the first time I came here, it was really interesting because I'd been studying this for, almost 10 years. So then to actually see these places I'd been studying about in person was, it was surreal.
Mm-hmm.
And a little depressing too, in the sense of like just seeing. So calving is when large chunks of ice fall off of the ice sheet into the ocean, which raises sea level. And seeing some of that firsthand, it's beautiful, it's stunning, but it's also, it's sort of that visual warning of what's happening and what's coming. So there was a mix of emotions, I think, when I first saw it. And I think the description that I try to give people, which is probably a really bad one, but it's the one that just sticks in my head, is the beginning of the movie Elf, for people that have seen that, when he's like leaving the North Pole and there's the icebergs floating around. And have you seen Elf?
I have seen Elf. I have. But I don't remember. We've talked about it. I don't remember that first beginning part. I have to go back and watch it. But I
have a different perspective now. But it's
the beginning part where
so he's leaving the North Pole to go to New York.
Okay.
And so he's like saying bye, and there's like icebergs around, and then like the narwhal comes up to him. It's just like this magical little scene. And I don't know, for some reason, for me, that's just what it feels like being here. It's like being in that scene of
from Elf.
Yeah.
There you go. And that excitement.
Like I said, it's probably a bad description,
but it's hopefully everyone will go back and watch the beginning of Elf, and then they'll be able to say, okay, now I get what she means by it. So some people are asking, she's also our travel, coordinator. So we always have things happening that Sharon has to be in. She's phenomenal. I mean, coordinating a trip like this, like logistically is crazy. And then we have this fog coming in, looking at flights and things like that. But I guess this kind of also leads into why, some people have been asking us this all week. We're from Florida.
Yeah.
We are Nova Southeastern University is a South Florida based university. Mm-hmm. Why is it important for us to be here on this expedition? And why is it important for the Rising Seas Institute to be housed at Nova Southeastern?
So for people in South Florida, or really anywhere along the coast in 140 nations, what's happening here is going to affect everybody. It's the warming is happening here more pronounced than anywhere else. The melting ice sheets, it's melting faster here than in Antarctica. 98% of potential sea level rise are in these two ice sheets. So, the kind of catchphrase that we say is Greenland's glaciers change the world. Mm-hmm. So what happens here trickles down to everywhere else. Everything's connected. It's all one giant system, really. So that's why it's going to affect us down there.
And that's why it's important that we're here, because you're right. It's all connected. Just because it is so far away and something that we can't picture doesn't mean it's not going to impact us. And I think that's, what I love about this collaboration with NSU now, being housed at NSU, collecting more data, being able to tell the story, because it is very unique that people get to come here. I mean, I feel so blessed that I get to be on this trip and being able to experience it. But with that comes the responsibility to tell the story, because people in South Florida are not going to get the chance to be here in person, but we can bring back that message, bring back the stories from the people of Greenland as well, because it is where I can't say it's ground zero for sea level rise, but we're going to feel it even actually more than they're going to feel it.
Right.
So I know, like, one of the things I want to, you've got some amazing things that you've been wanting to do, as your background a little bit in the education, communication side of things. Tell me what you see the future of opportunities are for Rising Seas Institute now that you are at NSU. What do you see you guys are doing in the future, or what do you hope for?
Yeah, I've got lots of big goals, big plans. So a couple of things. One, we really, really would like to be sort of the central hub that for good, solid data, solid information on sea level rise that people come to, that they know they can come to us and get the facts, get just really good information on sea level rise for helping them to plan on what to do, what to expect. We really hope to start sort of a multidisciplinary collaboration with not only multidisciplinary within the university of where we hope to kind of, teach about some of this, because it is going to affect so many different aspects of life. It's not just a coast issue. It's going to be a legal issue and economics and,
psychology we were talking about today, it's all interconnected.
Right.
So it's not just from a science and ecosystem connection. It's from where people are living, policy, economics. It's all connected.
Right, exactly. And then we really want to be internationally collaborative with, there's amazing glaciologists that the Rising Seas Institute's been working with that are located all over the world that do research here, do research in Antarctica. There's universities, even university in Greenland and Nuuk that we would love to have connections with, kind of have arms of the university out doing research, teaching students, really, kind of sharing efforts.
Yeah, because wouldn't it be great if you're a student in Nova Southeastern University and to be able to come up here and take a class for a semester or to do a study abroad type of program?
Exactly. Yeah.
One of the things you mentioned to me just recently was kind of getting the firsthand experiences of some of the guides that we go out. We were out at the glacier. We took a boat ride out there. We did a boat ATV walking on the glacier. I mean, hopefully we're gonna, be able to put up some of this information and video and pictures. But a lot of the guides that are on a lot of the trips that we're on were born here in Greenland. They might be from settlements close by and then have now moved to the cities and things. Well, one of the things you talked about was what you wanted to do with their perspective. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think it is so important to hear the perspective of the local people, to hear what their experiences have been growing up here, seeing the changes firsthand, how it's impacted their way of life in a lot of cases. I think that their voices really, really need to be included in when talking about any solutions or any adaptation measures, things like that are particularly that are taken here. Having their especially, the indigenous people that have really, their culture is so ingrained with the nature.
Yeah.
And they really understand it in ways that science often misses. We're very data oriented and they have a relationship with it. And I think getting their input and their collaboration is just going to give a perspective that we don't often get in science. So that's really important to hear and to have them, hopefully teach to some of our students and have the local community also involved in a lot of the efforts and the education as well, because and the research
because they're here all the time,
right? And
they get people from all over the world that are coming here now. I mean, this is becoming a very tourist place, but with that, you have a really unique opportunity for some really good education to kind of bring back to their, people's hometowns. So one of the things I want to ask you a little bit about is, with the Rising Seas Institute, with the data collection and talking a little bit about adaptation versus mitigation. So how do you answer that question to somebody who just, I think a lot of people think we know the definitions, but how does it apply to sea level rise?
So sea level rise is kind of unique because, when we talk about mitigation, usually, at least in the climate science space, we're talking about emission reductions, steps that we can take that will kind of slow the process and reduce the worst outcomes that could happen. With sea level rise, it's a little different because the heat has already been put into the ocean. I think it's like 93% of the heat, the excess heat from the atmosphere, gets stored in the ocean. So it's already there. So on some levels, although reducing emissions, taking those steps can help slow and reduce the ultimate amount of rise, but on some levels, there's going to be sea level rise that happens that we really can't stop. So when we talk about mitigation, it is just kind of slowing that to buy time to adapt to the changes that are going to be there.
And how much, like, sometimes people are like, oh, it's very small, but over time, it's big. So let's the scale, and we talk about planning and some of that. Can you put it just, I'm not even sure I'm asking the question the right way sometimes.
When you say it, are you talking about the amount of sea level rise right now?
So let's say people are like, oh, that's not going to happen in my lifetime.
Okay.
How do you answer and address somebody who says this wants to kind of push it off onto potentially the next generation? So we don't have to talk specifics. It's kind of more of that, it's it's a little bit.
Little bits add up.
Exactly. That's I think that's the point. Like, little bits add up, but why do people need to act now instead of saying, oh, it's not my lifetime?
Yeah, well, and I mean, depending on the person saying that, it certainly could be in their lifetime. And the rate is accelerating.
Yes.
So even though it's small now, in a couple of decades, it's not going to be as small. It's going to, that's going to keep accelerating. So, I think we as a species, tend to be bad at preparing for things. We like to react to things after they happen. And with the scale of this, that's not the wisest way to go about it. So I think it doesn't have to be as catastrophic as it could be if we take steps now.
Got it.
To, protect the things we want to protect, decide what's important, and it's going to look different in
every community.
In every community. Yep. Depending on, the resources available, depending on the geology of the place. There's lots of factors that go into how it's going to look everywhere. But each community can and should be looking at, okay, for us, what might this look like? And what are some of the steps we could take to kind of help, help it not be as catastrophic as if we all do nothing.
If we do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, where the Rising Seas Institute, you guys are, collecting the data, giving all the information. And then from there, people can start saying, well, here's what we need to do in the next 10 years, the next 20 years, the next 30. I think it's 10, 30,
10, 30, and
100. There we go.
Yep.
10, 30, and 100. I was like, I messed that one up a little bit. Because it is something that doesn't have to be an all or nothing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that's the real, also a big piece, is that there's small things that can be done. And then there's things that need to be planned for a longer term.
Yeah. And a lot of that depends on what you're talking about. If you're, talking about, as I think the example John used today was a soccer field, maybe we don't have to spend all that much money protecting a soccer field. But if you're talking about a nuclear power plant, that's probably worth investing some money into.
Yeah,
to make
or an
sure
airport.
Or
they're doing an airport here.
Yeah.
In oh my gosh, why am I blanking on how to say the place where we're at right
Ilulissat.
now? Ilulissat.
Yeah.
I completely just tongue tied it and couldn't.
It's the tea from last night.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We were out kayaking last night I'm like the Arctic Circle glaciers, out kayaking. We did not see a whale, but it was still
they were there in spirit.
It was beautiful. It was gorgeous. So adaptation, mitigation, really, but everything based in good science.
Yeah.
Data.
Exactly.
Data is driving decisions. Data is driving our steps for solutions. So I want to touch a little bit on that because, the Marine Research Hub, our goal is to help elevate solutions that are going to tackle some of our greatest challenges. One of our greatest challenges is sea level rise. So you've been in the space for many, many years. What, you don't have to just get specific on solutions, but have you seen some solutions? And when you think about solutions in this space, what are some of the some of the great things that might be coming, or some of the things that we have to just be careful of as we're looking at solutions, be aware of?
Yeah, so
it's a hard question.
That's a good one. Yeah,
that's a big question, a hard question, but let's see. Get comfy.
Yeah. So I think, and again, it's going to look different depending on where we're talking about. I love some of the living shoreline solutions that for this, it wouldn't necessarily be solution, but it helps.
Yeah.
It helps. And it helps without negative side effects.
Yeah.
When we just sort of restore what was naturally there.
Yep. And we have some of those happening right now in South Florida. Some of our companies that are partnering with Marine Research Hub.
That's great.
Like Kind Design. We've got One Print, Smart Seawall Technology, all kind of finding new innovation ways to create a seawall and protection that's a little more closer to nature, because we know we have to do it.
Right.
But yeah, like trying to be a little bit more aware of some of those solutions is great. So
right.
yeah, so we have some of those, but I'm going to keep going because those are one, and then there's some other new stuff going on.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really interesting a lot of it's in the experimental phase right now of some geoengineering techniques, things trying to help refreeze sea ice to reflect sunlight back rather than the dark ocean absorbs sunlight. Whereas the white ice reflects sunlight. It's called the albedo effect. So as the sea ice melts, we get more and more of the dark ocean that absorbs the heat.
Yep.
So there's been some work done to try and refreeze some of the sea ice to help reflect light back. There's some work being done on solar shades that can potentially block some of the sunlight from coming in.
Awesome.
I think these are really exciting.
Yeah.
I also, if they're still experimental phase,
Yep.
we definitely need to make sure we get the data on them.
Yeah.
Because a phrase that Bob used to use, he didn't come up with it, but he taught it to me. It's called wicked problem.
Okay.
And it's the idea that a problem is so big that there's no single solution, and every action you take could have other effects. And obviously this is a wicked problem. So we have to be really careful with not having unintended consequences with some of the solutions that we come up with, but also realizing that it's going to take some innovation. It's going to take some creative problem solving. We're going to have to really put some resources and human ingenuity into coming up with ideas that can help help save off some of the worst things that could be coming.
Yeah. And I love that. I love a wicked problem, because that's always a thing that we talk about, is we don't want to come up, solve one problem or fix one problem to just go turn around and create another problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's the worst thing that we could do at this point. And that's where, having many different solutions and different levels of solutions, some that are, like smaller, like when we say smaller, like a more localized impact, like a living shoreline, or something big like this solar shade.
Yeah.
But like you said, experimental, it's going to need a lot of data behind it. Data drives our decisions. Data drives where we are going to be building and putting in infrastructure and all of that. So I think that's awesome that, Rising Seas Institute will then be hopefully, be able to be the house for all of that data and spur more innovation and solutions, because one solution is not going to fix everything.
No. And one thing kind of along those lines that is a goal of ours is really to get different disciplines together to talk about some of these solutions, because scientists tend to work in silos. They don't necessarily talk.
I think people have heard me say that before. Yeah. So you're speaking my language.
And not only that, but we need some of the other disciplines to come in. Some social sciences, some of these other disciplines to really come in and talk about not only like the effects and what we're looking at and how to best interpret the science. Like I think when people tunnel vision, scientists in particular, tunnel vision on a specialty, they don't necessarily translate it well to the system, like we were talking about earlier, how everything's connected. So having other disciplines talking to each other and help with that. And then having non-science related disciplines coming in to talk about how do we then communicate what we've, communicate the data that in a way that's effective, that can drive action and really reach people, because that's a piece that's missing too.
And I think that you just kind of led into my next question a little bit. Is like, how can more people become involved in this space and actually, make change or be involved? What are some ways that someone who is just sitting at home in South Florida, who maybe can't go on a trip, but wants to learn more, where can they go? What can they do? What do you tell people?
Yeah,
it's a hard question. I know.
It is. We do have a website, risingseasinstitute.org. On the contact form, I respond to every email. So if people have questions, I will respond.
They'll get you. Yeah.
Yep.
So if you have some really hard-hitting questions.
Yep. I make it a pride point to answer all of them. So I will do my best.
All right.
But I think, so besides, trying to educate yourself on the subject, once you do have information, whether it's from us or, maybe in classes at NSU at some point.
Yes, I mean, there's going to be some, I'm really excited. I mean, I've heard a lot of ideas of what types of courses and things can be offered at NSU, and then building up that relationship. Like you said, that multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary approach is actually needed in many areas, not just dealing with sea level rise.
Yeah, agreed.
Because like you said, silos, you get the same people in having the same conversations. And what are we doing? A year later, 2 years later, we're still having the same conversations.
Exactly. Yep.
That's why we need all, different sectors, different specialties, different areas of expertise in the conversation.
Yeah. And a lot of the climate scientists and glaciologists that we work with they're asking for there to be somebody who really takes the lead on this, because it's a wide open space. No one's doing it, and they're all recognizing this need.
And now it's Nova Southeastern University, the Rising Seas Institute is going to basically fill that gap for a lot of people. Yeah. So and you mentioned it, a lot of this, people can get involved with whatever way, educate yourself, maybe take classes, but also getting involved. I know we talked about it earlier, kind of just, getting involved in your community.
Right. Yeah. I think I usually say one of the there's two big things that I tell people is when, once you've learned, pass it on, pass it on to the people that that really helps spread things. Right. And then, yes, get involved locally, be civically involved in your community is really important when it comes to issues of, a lot of this is going to be policy related, and come back to, I kind of say it's not going to happen top down. It's going to happen bottom up. So yeah, as small as maybe a community may seem, that's where it's all going to start.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Just get involved where you can get involved. Utilize the resources that you have and the talents that you have.
Right.
And yeah, first and foremost, just be educated and share it with others. A true educator, I definitely always says that. And I know you are. That's part of what you're doing. So we're almost wrapping up on time, but I wanted to get kind of your, what makes you still hopeful? Because earlier you said, one of the things, going and seeing it for the first time, it was, it's both breathtakingly beautiful and, kind of scary at the same time. So what makes you hopeful to do and gets you up every day doing this work and continuing to be, an advocate on education for sea level rise? What's that?
Yeah, which I do think is important to point out. If I wasn't hopeful, I wouldn't be doing the work. I think for me, it's something that I talked about a little bit ago. But my hope really is in the creativity and ingenuity of people to come together and work together to find really creative solutions.
Love it.
Yeah, I think absolutely where I find the hope in it.
Yeah. And I think that's what I love about what I get to do with the Marine Research Hub is we get to help elevate solutions and companies and organizations and stuff that is cutting edge, innovative. And we also have to remind ourselves that not everything is going to be perfect the first time around. That's what science is as well.
Very good point. Yep.
You have to, work at it, modify it, bring more data in to drive more decisions because it's not going to be fixed overnight.
No,
we're not.
Science is a verb, right? It's a process. It's a, that's.
Sometimes people forget that a little bit. Yeah, it is a process, but we can't give up. That's why this is why we have all the innovation that's around us all the time now, is that someone, if people would have given up, what would we have?
Right. Absolutely.
We wouldn't have our cell phones or our video camera and stuff that we're doing this
things
podcast
that seemed impossible not that long ago.
Yeah. So yeah, I love the fact that, like you said, that innovation, ingenuity, creativity, and it is going to take all those disciplines. And that's what's also, we also want to, share is that all of these companies that are going to be established out of this research and innovation are going to need multidisciplinary people. You're going to need the science and the engineering, but you're also going to need the marketing and the business and all of these different disciplines are going to need to work together to really scale up the solutions that we really need, because we need solutions now, because we know that there's certain things we can't turn back the clock anymore. But we have to find ways to maybe slow some things down.
Right.
Maybe we can slow it down. We can reverse some things, or mitigate and adapt to some of the impacts that are coming.
Yeah. There will definitely be adaptation involved. But again, there's some really
great
creative
solutions
with that too. That around the world, people are getting really, really creative with it.
I love it. I love it so much. So anything else that you would like to, so risingseasinstitute.org. I know with the relationship with NSU, there's going to be some updates on a lot of, the website and communication.
Our website.
And, just kind of the fact that you'll be housed at NSU, and probably more stuff on curriculum. So people can go on and find it all out there and follow us. And
we hope to get so we're updating the website and we hope to start a newsletter that's going to really curate sort of the daily happenings with not just with the university but the research going on in sea level rise, and so again to try and be that central hub that people can go to and really get up-to-date information on what's going on.
That's great. Yeah, because it's going to be, there's the data, and then that's going to help people make decisions.
Exactly.
How you take that data is really going to drive for communities, people, livelihood, everything, economics, it's all interconnected.
Yep.
So if you're interested in more information, you can go check it out. And if you want to learn more about the Marine Research Hub, you can follow us and share and like and whatever all that stuff is. But this was so fun to just sit and chat with you. See, it wasn't so bad.
No,
It was very, I'm sorry, you guys.
It went away. It all went away.
Yeah.
The fog came in.
This is crazy, guys. People literally, I hope you saw it, but this has been a lot of fun. And
well, and I wanted to say I love what you guys are doing at the Marine Research Hub. So thanks
for joining me today. I'm really excited. And this was our on location in Greenland. I couldn't miss this opportunity. And so for all of you who've been joining us, join us next time as we dive into the blue economy with our next guest next month. So thank you so much. And thanks, Sharon.
Thank you.
And I'm going to see you back in Florida now.
Yeah, definitely.
We met in Iceland and Greenland, and we both live in Florida. Yeah. So thank you.
If your brand belongs in the heart of the yachting world, this is where it happens. Yachting International Radio reaches over 1 million yachting professionals and enthusiasts every month, with 77 million impressions, 220,000 social followers, and 74,000 podcast subscribers. Our hosts are insiders, crew, captains, CEOs, trusted voices shaping the industry. This is targeted, high-impact advertising in a luxury niche. Visit yachtinginternationalradio.com/advertise. Your audience is already listening.